Louisiana Congressman, the House Minority Whip, Republican Steve Scalise. How you doing, sir? Good morning to you. Heavy topic here. Appreciate you coming in for it. Andy McCarthy was writing earlier today, Derek Chauvin may be guilty, but Biden and Waters made sure this will drag on in appeal. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think we do know what happened last June when Tim Scott on the Senate side tried to get a reform bill done. And ironically, Democrats in the Senate used the filibuster to stop it. Are things different now?
That's right. Well, Bill, good to be with you. And if you look, Senator Tim Scott put a lot of work into coming up with a bill that really focuses on the root of the problem. How do you go after the culture in some of these departments like Minneapolis, where you've had these bad cops? And yesterday, a dirty cop was put in jail, and that's the way justice is supposed to work. But my colleague in the House, Pete Stauber, was a cop, a good cop in Minnesota, and he worked with Tim Scott on that bill. And I would like to see President Biden fulfill his promise of unity by working with Republicans. You don't approach an issue this sensitive like police reform in a hyper-partisan way where you're just going after all cops, using the folks that want to defund police to write that bill where they take away qualified immunity, which undermines the work of good cops. So I would hope that President Biden would reach out to Senator Tim Scott and Pete Stauber, who was a good cop and understands what you need to do. And I would use this example, too, by the way, Bill. Mark Morial was mayor of New Orleans when we had real problems with the New Orleans Police Department. Mark's the head of the National Urban League today. But he cleaned up a dirty system. There was a culture where there were a lot of dirty cops at that time. And he confronted it, and he fixed it, and he cleaned up the New Orleans Police Department. So, you've got to focus on going in and fixing the problems, but don't undermine the important work that good police officers do every day, putting their lives on the line to keep our community safe.
We should point out also the jury did its job. That 3-0 verdict that was handed down yesterday. Part of the idea that Tim Scott was pushing was encourage the end of police chokeholds, make lynching a crime, and increase disclosure requirements on the use of force. Democrats don't think that goes far enough. Do you?
Well, again, you look at what the Democrats have proposed, and it's things like taking away qualified immunity. That is defunding police in a different way. You talk to good cops all across the country. They say if they're exposed in that kind of way, they won't stay in law enforcement. You won't be able to recruit good police officers. So, for the left that just wants to defund the police, I don't hear a lot of them saying that they don't want police to protect them. And so I think we've got to be very careful that we don't undermine what good police do every day in our communities to keep us safe when you're going forward.
I'm thinking about the atmosphere you guys are working in today in Washington as well. And I'll just play a clip from yesterday. Val Demings, a Democrat from Florida, Jim Jordan, a Republican from Ohio. I mean, this exchange was sharp. Watch this.
It's interesting to see my colleagues on the other side of the aisle support the police when it is politically convenient to do so. Law enforcement officers risk their lives every day. They deserve better, and the American people deserve. I have the floor, Mr. Jordan.
Lady has,
what, did I strike a nerve? Law enforcement officers deserve better than to be utilized as pawns. And you and your colleagues are ashamed of yourself.
That was just a sample of that. She's got a law enforcement background, by the way, in Florida. She was saying that Republicans don't want to dive into what happened on January 6th. And Jim Jordan was saying that Democrats don't want to dive into what happened last summer with all the rioting in American cities. Can you move this ball forward?
Yeah, we need to. And for her to suggest that it's politically convenient to support law enforcement, you know how difficult it is right now to support law enforcement against some on the radical left who want to defund police. They've made it clear that's part of their agenda. I think that's a radical agenda. And so we've got to come together. And there's a way to come together. Again, you can look at Senator Tim Scott's bill with Pete Stauber, who's a police officer in Minnesota who knows the things that need to be done to help improve what is broken in law enforcement. And it's not all of our cops across the country. They do great work. And so you don't want to undermine good cops. In their bill, the Democrat-only bill, like getting rid of qualified immunity, would actually undermine good policing. I would hope that they don't go down that road. Work with Republicans who know something about this, too, and we could come together. President Biden needs to take leadership. He has to follow through on the promise that he's yet to fulfill to work and unify this country, work with everybody, Republicans and Democrats.
Sir, I've got a lot more, but thank you for your time. I'm out of time now. As I told your colleague, Democrat Debbie Dingell, last hour, please tell your colleagues in Washington, we don't all hate each other. And as you work through this, just remember the goodness of America and the goodness of Americans. We've come too far.
Yeah, we've got to tone it down and sit and work together through this. This is a bipartisan problem that needs to be solved in a bipartisan way. America is counting on us to do it. We've got to rise to this occasion.
Thank you, sir. Steve Scalise, Republican from Louisiana. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.